Guys, it's Trish. Welcome back to another Dress It Up video. Today we're going to make a really cool vintage design necklace. We're going to start by looking at what we'll need, which first is the Timeless Treasure buttons, the beautiful bead strand that is a Walmart exclusive from Jesse James Beads, some sari silk, some 22 gauge wire, some gold 8/0 seed beads. Okay, I'm showing you here, it's 8/0s. Number 2 crimp tubes. Those are my favorite. So a needle and some thread that coordinates. And some soft flex wire. So here I'm starting with the button. I'm going to cut about a 12-inch piece of wire, and I'm going to use my wire straightener to make that nice and straight, take any of the kinks out of it, and ready to work with. Doing both sides of it, and you can see I did one side, flipped it, and then did the other. I'm going to insert one end of that wire through the shank in this button, and I'm going to bring it up around, and I'm going to straighten the long one up so it's up toward the top, because we're going to need the extra wire to add the bead on at the end. And what I'm doing here is I'm just pulling that nice and snug around that shank, and I'm rolling it around, pulling it around nice and snug, just going in circles and lining those wires up one after the other. And I'm just pressing that down with my fingernails just to make sure it's nice and snug. And I'm going to continue with that. That's where we are. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this wire, the short wire, around the long wire at the base just to secure them together. And I'm just going to kind of straighten things out here with my tweezer nose pliers. There we go. And then pull that around another time. Because of it being so tight there, I like to sometimes use a plier to break it around. And I'm just going to take my tweezer nose pliers here and just kind of push that end down and neaten up this stack of loops just by squeezing them together. And I'm just making those nice and neat. And I'm going to take my pliers now and just kind of push down around that shank onto those wires just to snug everything up. It's nice and secure. And then I'm going to squeeze the pliers around the wire to get it nice and tight on there. And then you can see I'm showing you it's nice and secure there now. So now I'm going to add on my beautiful crystal rondelle and blush pink there. I just love it. Beautiful. And then we're going to take the pliers and I'm going to squeeze that wire right on top of that rondelle, and I'm going to bend the wire horizontally, and you can see it left a little space there so you can fit in your round nose pliers. So once you get your round nose pliers in there, you're going to take the wire up and over. This is for a wrap loop, guys. Then take your pliers to lay horizontally, switch the position, pull the wire across, and then once you do that, you're going to grab your chain nose or tweezer nose pliers, and you're going to wrap the wire around, get it in a good position, and wrap the wire around. And I like to do it about 3 times, gives it a nice look. And then I'm going to take it down over top of this bead just to kind of give it a little bit of interest, and then wrap a couple times around the base. So that's the look it gives you, and I think it looks cute to have that metal over top of the bead like that. It just kind of, like I said, it adds some interest. So I'm going to take my flush cutters and cut that wire flush, and then take my tweezer pliers and just push the end down on that. So that's your basic pendant using a button. So now we're going to put the jump rings onto the loop of the pendant. Now the reason I like to do this, I like to take about 3 jump rings and put it through the loop that you have just made for any kind of pendant. What it does is just gives it a little bit more of a presence by doing that when you put those on. So I'm getting my soft flex and I'm leaving it on the roll. I have the end there and I poured out some ADOs. And I'm just going to put the pearl on the end, and I'm going to start using my spacer beads in between. Now, these metallic color seed beads are awesome because you get the look of metal without having to worry about them tarnishing. If you don't use a high-end metal or just use a basic metal, sometimes it can tarnish, and the metallic seed beads really make it nice. So I'm just putting on a bead and using those as spacers. And now I'm going to apply my pendant on. And it has those 3 jump rings, like I said. And you can see how nice that looks there. Instead of just having that one individual ring you thread right on. And I'm going to get a seed bead here and begin up the other side. Now I'm going to trim. Once I get both sides done, I'm going to trim. And I'm going to attach a spring to one side to make sure it doesn't slide off when I'm crimping. And then I'm going to take the other side and I'm going to begin to crimp. I'm going to put my, first I'm going to put my number 2 crimp tube on. And I'm going to let that fall down the wire. And then pull that up and put the end of my soft flex through the crimp. So now you have both wires going down, and I'm going to leave a larger loop because we're going to need that when we go to the next part, when we put our sari silk on. So I just give that a good crimp. And then I like to kind of check my loops every time, just put my round nose in and just give it a good tug. And I also like to cut off the excess wire because really, in essence, what is it really doing? So I'm crimping the other side as well, the same way with the larger loop in it. And now I have my sari silk. I'm going to cut that in half, the piece that I have there. And you can use any length to make the necklace to whatever length you want, of course. And I have my needle and thread. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the end of the sari silk and put it through the loop the area that we just crimped, and fold it back over itself. Okay. And you can see I just put maybe about 1.5 inch piece or 1 inch piece back up through. Then we're going to take our needle and thread and we're going to begin to stitch that together. And we're going to put in a few stitches just to kind of get things steady and pulled together before we decide to put our button on. So you can see I'm just kind of making sure that it's straight, making sure my thread, and just going back through. I'm just doing a simple whip stitch there. And you can do this with the thread. You could also use wire and wire the button on. That would work just as well. So I'm going to take that button, I'm going to put my needle through the shank of it, and then take it back down through. Then we're going to go through that a couple times just to make sure that everything is held in place really well. Okay, and I'm going to hold that with my thumb and then go back up through and catch that shank. Every time I go through from here forward, I want to be able to catch the shank to make sure that I'm securing that in place. Okay, just doing some more stitches here, just for good measure. And also, once you stitch on, if you want to go back and wrap a piece of wire underneath there on the base of the sari silk, just to tighten everything up, you certainly can. But that's the look that we get from that. So I'm taking my ribbon crimps and I'm going to put those on the end of the sari silk because that's going to give us a connection point to put our clasp on with. So I'm just showing you here, you want to make sure and just crimp those on nice and snug. check them when you give them a little tug, you know, same thing. So I have both of those on, and we're going to apply the clasp. And we're just going to use some 5mm jump rings here. And remember, when you're putting your jump rings, guys, back to front, not side to side. So I always like to put the working end onto the right side. It's just something that I always have done. So when I mean working end, I mean the one that's actually going to go either through the loop of the clasp. If you have a toggle clasp like this, if you have a lobster clasp, you're going to put the lobster clasp end on the right side. It just seems like it works for my clients better that way, and that's what everyone prefers. So I'm just applying the round part of the toggle clasp and hook that together. And then I will show you here what our necklace looks like. I think it came out really cute. So now that we've done our necklace, we're going to do another little project as a little bonus project at the end of this video. So I have two more really cute buttons that match the ones that we've sewed on. And I'm simply going to cut the shanks off the back of those buttons. Okay. I'm going to take an earring base. I've gotten these earring bases that have little loops on the bottom of them, so you can just glue on whatever. But I took some patina paint, gold patina paint, and just painted the actual loop color gold because it's the only part you're going to see. And it is a silver fixture, so I thought that would work great because all you're going to see in the front is that gold loop anyway. So I just used some super glue gel. As you can see, it's sticky. And I'm just centering that piece where I want it. And we'll have our loop there. I'm going to do that exact same thing to the other one. Then we're just going to take some head pins and a few seed beads and some regular beads. And we're going to make some dangles for the bottom of the earring. So I'm just going to put on a seed bead, one of the real pretty pearl-like glass beads, and another seed bead, and that's going to be our bottom dangle. And I'm just going to put that into the one-step looper, just for simple ease of it. You could do wrap loops, you could do your simple loops by hand as well if you like. And then I'm going to take a piece of wire and do a loop on the bottom of that as well. And I'm going to link in the bottom piece that we just made with our head pin. So that's going to give you some movement. I always recommend that when you do earrings to at least put a couple different parts on them to give a little bit of movement to each earring. So that way then, you know, it'll look really cute in the ear. When you move your head, they'll move and just really makes them cute. So I'm just putting some more beads on for that top one, and then I'm going to use the one-step looper and make another loop on the top there. And if you have a little seed bead or crystal there, you want to back off just a hair from the side of the looper so you don't crack your little beads there. And so that's hooked together, and now I'm going to open the top loop and just simply hook that onto the base that we created with the button. Close that loop. And there you have one earring done. I think they came out really cute. I definitely like the style of these to go with the necklace that we made. So that is it, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and I'll see you in the next one.